Hey guys, this is Joe from Analog Archive back with another vinyl video. Today's video is going to be my recent finds from the last few weeks. That also includes a few records that I found at a record show that I had went to on Halloween. Um, Not far from where I live, there was a record show that normally would be 2 times a year, but with COVID, this was actually the first time that it was at this location prior to the pandemic. So um, my taste in music had changed since I went to the one right before the pandemic, and so I was interested to see what they had, and it definitely didn't disappoint. I found some really great stuff. They're kind of going to be mixed into my finds, starting with this first one, which is Pat La Barbera, Pass It On, and it's on the PM Records label that was started by the bassist Gene Perla in the early 70s. I didn't have any records with Pat La Barbera on it. I was familiar with the name because he had worked with Elvin Jones on a few albums in like the early to mid 70s, and was really interested to kind of find this, and it was real cheap. It was like $10. Really clean sounding record, and was really happy to find that. Definitely a great, more like post bop type sound, but excellent saxophone playing on this. Definitely recommend that. If you watched my last video, a lot of the records that I showed were Elvin Jones and Dave Liebman, and I kind of continued collecting more of those artists, starting with Elvin Jones. This is Earth Jones. This is from 1982, and this also has Dave Liebman on it. And also what was kind of cool to see was Terry Masahino on the cornet. The real famous trumpet player from Japan. He absolutely is just blazing on this record, and some really great playing. Just really great. Was really happy to find this, and it sounds great. So really happy to have that. Next one is another Dave Liebman quartet. This is on the Inner City label from 1979. This is just a recent pickup. I just actually picked this up a few days ago, and was really kind of interested in continuing to collect more of Dave Liebman's stuff. And after listening to this, it had a great mix of sound. Again, more modal type stuff. And being in just a quartet, he has a lot of room to really explore. So it was a cool one to find. Not expensive one either. So Inner City. I think that one may have originally been on Enya, the record label out of Germany, and that's just like the US version of it. Another Elvin Jones. This is New Agenda. This is on the Vanguard label, which I was familiar with through some of the blues records I had, especially Buddy Guy. I have, I think, at least 1 or 2 records of him on Vanguard, so didn't know until recently about Vanguard and jazz, but this is a little bit later one. This is from the mid-70s, and another great lineup as well on this. Elvin Jones had kind of just a different group of guys that he worked with really throughout the 70s. It seemed like only a few records seemed to have the same lineup, and he was constantly changing who he was working with. Steve Grossman is featured on this one, who was another guy that featured on his Live at the Lighthouse session from a few years earlier on Blue Note. But I'm excited to listen to this one. This was another one I just got recently. Haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. Seen a lot of people show this. Love Supreme, live in Seattle, John Coltrane. Real highly anticipated release on Impulse. One of only 2 known live sessions that featured Love Supreme being played, kind of the whole suite. But listened to a little bit of this. Haven't really, unfortunately, had a chance to listen to the whole thing yet. But I mean, what a lot of people are saying, the sound quality isn't super amazing. It's more archival, like you'd see from the some of the other labels, like the Black Friday stuff. I'm blanking on the label name, but it kind of has more of an archival sound. Elvin Jones is really up front, along with McCoy Tyner, but it's still an excellent, just kind of historical piece, and I'm happy to have it. And excited to kind of continue to check that one out. Few of the next few are some that I just recently got. Actually, just today. This is first Steve LACY. It's called Evidence. This was originally on the New Jazz label. This was recorded in 1961, and it's got an early contribution from Don Cherry. So that was kind of interesting. A much, I think, different sound than what he would have in the later 60s, as he kind of more embraced the free jazz and avant-garde jazz type of jazz. But this is more just kind of in the lane of like a bop, maybe a little hard bop-ish type, but really cool. Early, I would say Steve LACY's got to be one of the early guys that was playing soprano as well, especially this 1961. That's around the same time as Coltrane kind of stepped into that instrument as well. But just got this one today, so I haven't had a chance to listen to it. But this is on the Blue Trident label. But so really excited to pick this up and check this out. But early kind of listens, it sounds great. Other one's Elvin Jones live. This is at the Town Hall. Let me see if it says where. No, it doesn't. It's from September 12th, 1971. It even gives you the time, 8 p.m. that the concert was. It's billed as being the John Coltrane Memorial Concert. It's got Elvin Jones on drums. Frank Foster is on tenor and soprano sax. Chick Corea is on piano. Gene Perl is on bass. And Joe Farrell is also on the tenor sax, and he also plays the flute. There's only 2 tracks on this album, one on just either one on each side, both of them being over 20 minutes long. Just common thing with live albums, just long compositions. But interesting one, kind of worth checking out. After getting this home, actually today, I didn't really look too deeply at the labels. The first record I'd shown, the Pat LaBarbera record, was on PM Records, and so was this one. This is a Canadian pressing. So at first I'm a little weary of albums, picking up albums that are not from the kind of the country it came out in. But I put this one just a few minutes ago before I started recording the video, and it sounds great. The fidelity is great, and excited to kind of check this out. And just another kind of great Elvin Jones album from the 70s. Next one, we got Quest. This is Dave Liebman. He had 3 albums in the 80s. In my last video, I showed one, which I think was his first album, under this kind of band named Quest. The album is actually called Natural Selection. It's got a lineup that he's worked with quite a bit. Richie it's Bayark, something like that, on piano, and Billy Hart on the drums, and then also Ron McClure features on both acoustic bass and then also the electric bass. Got a mix of slow and kind of faster tunes, but really enjoyed Dave Liebman, his work, 70s and 80s, and this one's from 1988, so a little bit later, but early listens of this sounds great, so I'm excited to check that one out. This next one I'm really excited about. Didn't know about this. I was familiar with the artist. I have another album by him. This is Eddie Henderson. The album's called The Mahal, and it's got a pretty great lineup on it. Eddie Henderson is on the I don't know if he plays both the flugelhorn and the trumpet. I know his go-to is the flugelhorn, but it looks like he might just be playing the trumpet on this. Herbie Hancock's on the electric piano. Benny Maupin plays the tenor sax. Julian Priester is on the trombone. And it's got some other guys. Hubert Laws is on this. Not familiar with the rest of the names, but maybe Bill Summers. But it's got a pretty decent lineup. This is like a jazz funk from 1978. Much different than his first album, which I'm trying to think of what the name of the album is. Heritage. It's got a picture of it's like a young, I think it's supposed to appear as like a young version of him playing the trumpet. That one's on Blue Note. This one's on the Capitol label. Really excited to check this out. Just I kind of early kind of taking a listen to this at first. It sounds like Headhunters with just a trumpet as the kind of in the forefront. So I really love Headhunters, just like a lot of people do, but with kind of a trumpet that's in the forefront. He's really mostly the one just soloing, so really excited about that one. Love the Heritage album. That one's a great album that I picked up this year as well. And the rest of them, I have a few more left, are some bigger ones. This one I picked up on my last trip to Rochester. This is The Visitors, Earl Grubbs and Carl Grubbs, so it's the Grubbs brothers. Wasn't too familiar with The Visitors being kind of a group. There was 3 albums that they recorded in the 70s. One of them, I don't remember what the name of it is, but it's got an iconic, somewhat iconic cover for the 70s. It's a very common record, and I can't think of what label it's on, but I was familiar after looking at that. I didn't have that record, but was one that I had seen before. But this is just an early 70s. I think this is from 72. Just blazer of a session. It's being more somewhat avant-garde, mixed with like soul jazz and post-bop. So it's got a very interesting sound to it, but really loved the sound of this when I listened to it. So excited to kind of pick that up. This next one, I've talked about this record before as being one that I've really been on the kind of lookout for, and Jason at Uncle Charlie's Jazz Records on Instagram posted this a few weeks ago, and I snapped it up as quick as I could. This Afro-Cuban Kenny Dorham. This is a UA mono from the 70s. I knew there was no way I was going to find an original. One of the stores in Rochester over the summer had gotten in the 10-inch, the original recording of Afro-Cuban that featured the 4 of the 7 songs. But he wanted really ridiculous money for it, and originals of this are astronomical in value, being like $4,000 or $5,000 plus for a nice copy. So great to be able to have this alternative pressing. Really excited. I always love these UA monos. This one plays really clean, so really happy to finally grab that one. All right, so we get towards the end, just a few more. This is another one I picked up at the record show, In Pursuit of Blackness, Joe Henderson. This is my second album of his on Milestone. The Milestone catalog is it's not terribly difficult to find them, and they're not going to be super expensive. But Joe Henderson's catalog on Milestone, he had something like 5 or 6 albums on Milestone, are all tough to find and are more expensive. I think this one was like $75. Was a little bit weary at first because when I looked at the vinyl, it was looked like there was some marks on it. It wasn't really like scratches, just some marks on it, but it played through really well, very little surface noise, if any, and just this, I think, is become my favorite Joe Henderson album on Milestone so far. So again, I only have two, but The Kicker is the other one that I picked up in the spring, but really enjoyed this one. It's got a great sound to it, and he's just absolutely killing it on the sax on this. So happy to have been able to pick this up and find this. And then the last two, this one was a recent Discogs pickup. I haven't really been buying as much on Discogs. I've been just mostly buying at the record stores in Rochester, especially the Bop Shop, but really been looking for this album for a while, and finally found a really reasonably priced copy on Discogs. This was like $22. It was marketed as being VG Plus. I reached out to the seller to ask about surface noise, and he said it played with no surface noise. And I listened to it last night, and the one side, the opening song, and the second side had a little bit of crackle to it. Once the track started, it kind of went into the background. You didn't really hear it too much, and there was not a whole lot of surface noise, but this is just an insanely good album, like spiritual avant-garde jazz. Wayne Shorter he plays the soprano sax on all the songs, and then also but on the final track, Joy, he starts out on the tenor sax, and then he switches to the soprano sax towards the end. But this is just, I was absolutely blown away by this album. A little bit softer of a sound to it, but when he starts to get going on that sax, it's insane. I absolutely love this album. So happy to have been able to finally grab this, and can't wait to kind of continue to listen to this. And then finally, the last album I picked up, this was the final one also that I got from the record fair. Been looking to upgrade my copy of Love Supreme in terms of the pressing. I was looking for an earlier pressing. I have a not acoustic sounds. I have a I can't think of the name. What it is? If it comes to me, I can't. That is a German pressing from the early 2000s, like an audiophile one. Let me know in the comments if I can't. I'm just blanking right now on that. But this is obviously Love Supreme, John Coltrane, his magnum opus album, and absolutely incredible session. Don't need to really say much else about it. This is a 1970 stereo copy. I had a chance a few months ago to grab a 1972 copy, side to pass because it looked a little bit rougher. This one plays really well, and actually the guy that sold it to me at the show was telling me that he was thinking of keeping it. He wasn't going to bring it to the show, but he decided to, and I was definitely glad to grab it. Interesting thing was, this was the only jazz album that he had at his booth. His was divided up by artists. It wasn't like this was the rock, this was jazz, this was soul, metal, things like that. It was just, everything was all mixed together, just alphabetized. And he had a John Coltrane section, and this was the only one that was in the John Coltrane section. And again, to my surprise, a 1970 copy, $65. I thought that was reasonable. It looked really nice, and when I played it, it was incredible. Yeah, compared to the other one that I have, this one sounded more just full, more dynamic. This unfortunately doesn't have the Van Gelder stamp, but is an early copy, so it probably had some affiliation with the original metal, but just not using that. So really happy to have been able to grab this. Only thing I'd be kind of upgrading would be if it was mono. I don't really think I would go for an original stereo when I have this. I mean, it's not gonna, again, Van Gelder stamp versus not, but mono would be the only thing I think that I would probably still look for. But a great one, and absolutely happy to be able to grab that. So that is it for my finds in the last few weeks, continuing to kind of explore other areas of jazz outside of hard bop, especially into the 70s and even really getting into the 80s now with someone like the Dave Liebman records. And I think that's kind of helping me to continue to broaden my horizon of the sound that I like to hear. For a long time, I was not really interested, or not interested, I wasn't really, I didn't really connect with the albums that went a little bit more free, avant-garde. Even post-bop stuff was a little bit shaky for me at first, but just kind of taking baby steps. I know there's a lot of people on YouTube, like Sherv and Dave, Local Bandography, that have kind of told me about certain albums, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, so just kind of continue to explore some more stuff. Thanksgiving's coming up, going back to Rochester, hoping to grab some more great finds. And till then, please think about liking and subscribing, and I will see you in the next vinyl video. Bye.